Hey guys, happy Thursday and officially day 4 of not being at school. I have enjoyed, and I know Miss Nestor has also enjoyed, reading some of the journal entries you have sent us and letters. It's always great to see you guys writing. So if you have access to a computer and you want to type something to us or share a document with us that we can communicate with you, please do so. I do have a couple things that you can do on top of the packet stuff. Continue to work on that first packet. I have a couple free write ideas. Like I said, please journal. What are you feeling? What are you doing? What's going on in your life? Different things like that. And also write letters to me, to your grandparents, to anybody that might not be with you right now, and just tell them what's going on. A couple other free write prompts that I came up with. One of them is you find a cave inside of a tree. You go in. What do you see? So you're walking in the woods, you find a cave inside of a tree, you go into the cave. What's in there? Describe it to me. Tell me what it's like. What's going on? The next one, I give you a camera to take 3 pictures. 3 pictures of things that you like. One picture has to be taken at home, one has to be taken at school, and the other can be taken anywhere. But they have to be of things that you like. So describe them of what you're taking a picture of, and then tell me why you like that and why you chose to take a picture of that. Obviously, you don't have to really take a picture. This is just for you to write about. And the last one that I have for today is you wake up and you realize that you are invisible. What do you do for the day? So for the day, you wake up, you realize nobody can see you. You're invisible. What do you decide to do that day? So those are a couple free writes. You can do them on lined paper and turn them in once we get back to school, or you can do them on the computer and email them to us, or do it on Google Documents and share it with us, whatever's easier. Make sure when you're free writing though, go through and check for your mechanics, check for capitalization, punctuation, using the correct usage of tense, verb tense. Make sure that you have that subject noun agreement. Make sure that you are checking your spelling, everything like that. Go through and think about what are those things that we work on in class that we're trying to improve, and go through and work on those things. I think that's about it for writing stuff. Please make sure you're still reading every day. I know Gia made a cool website that has all of the videos and different things on there, and explanations of like different homework and stuff, and I will post that on Google Classroom as well, so you can go there to see videos or ask questions to Gia, things like that. She did that all on her own. It's actually really cool. I took a look at it today, so that's something else that you can use. All right, so we're going to read some more out of Front Desk, and we ended up with Mia telling Lupe that she wasn't going to Vermont because she didn't win the essay contest. But then something happened at school where she didn't win the essay contest to win the motel, but she wrote an essay about that small moment that she had to describe, and she wrote about her plane ride over to America and described everything, and the teachers loved it so much that they asked Mia to read it aloud in class, and they said that that was the best story that they read. And then they gave her 2 Pizza Hut coupons, and she took those 2 coupons and she took Lupe and her mom to Pizza Hut, and then they saved some pizza slices for her dad. So we are on chapter 61. We will most likely finish the book tomorrow. All right, chapter 61. The kind people at Pizza Hut let me keep my coupon as a souvenir. Carefully, I taped it up next to the front desk so I could look at it every day while I worked. I wish I could tell my cousin Shen about it. The whole time Lupe was talking about her cousins in Mexico, I was thinking about Shen. There was this restaurant that Shen and I would always walk by on our way to school. It was a fancy Western restaurant, the only one in town, and naturally, it was way too expensive. Every time we walked by it, Shen and I would talk about what it would be like one day if we could go in there when we grew up and order whatever we wanted. If Shen knew that today I'd gone to Pizza Hut and for free too, he'd be so proud of me. I smiled at the thought. I pulled out a piece of paper and started writing him a letter. If my mom didn't want to tell his mom about her, fine, but I just had to tell Shen. It had been a while since I last wrote. The last letter was before we started working for Mr. Yao. I wrote quickly, scribbling away about Lupe and Hank and Mr. Yao, and I wrote about the car theft and the crazy security guard and freeing Uncle Zhang. I wrote about school and Jason, who wasn't quite so bad anymore, even though he still had my pencil. I told him about the essay contest and how I didn't win, but that Lupe and I were going to figure out another way to get off the roller coaster together. Finally, I told him about Mrs. Douglas and my writing and how I'd gone from 12 exclamation marks bad to 4 exclamation marks good. I even drew a picture of the Pizza Hut coupon so he could see for himself. In my neatest handwriting, I copied down all the words on the coupon, including the little expiration date at the bottom, so he would know exactly what it looked like. I was nearly done when the mailman came. "Can you wait a second?" I begged the mailman. "I just want to mail this letter to my cousin in China. I just need to get the address from my parents. It'll just take a second." "Did you say China?" he asked. He poked around in his big fat sack and found letters and produced in envelopes. "Looks like you guys just got something from there today." I peered out the letter in my hands. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the address. It was from Shen. "Thank you so much," I told the mailman. I was so excited. I forgot all about mailing my own letter to Shen and tore open his letter to me. The mailman chuckled as he left. It was a very long letter. 5 pages long, to be exact. It was extremely detailed, and Shen even separated it into sections. There was a section on school, a section on neighborhood, and a section on our family. Typical him. He was always super organized. I raced through the letter and gulped it down as quickly as I could. I giggled at Shen's description of his new teacher, Mr. Wang, and how he couldn't sneeze without farting at the same time. He told me all about the new kids at his school, many of whom were from the outskirts of the city. The entire neighborhood was changing. All throughout the city, people were starting to buy up property. The government was tearing down the old brick buildings to make room for new high-rises. When I got to the section on family, though, my eyes did a double take. "We recently moved to an apartment by the river because it's bigger. After you guys left, my dad made head of the department at his job. Long story short, the job came with a much bigger apartment. I no longer have to share with my parents. Now I have my own room. Oh, and we also got a car. Nothing like what you guys have in America, I'm sure, but it's pretty great. Last weekend, we went to Beijing and walked around the Great Wall. We had lunch at a brand new Peking duck restaurant. It was really fancy. Do they have Peking duck in America?" Over and over, I read the words. New apartment, own room, car. I looked down at my letter on the table at my handwriting, which a minute ago looked so neat, now looked puny. Slowly, I reread my words. How I'd gone on and on about the poor roller coaster and my pencil, my excitement of finally going to an American restaurant, how my stomach growled when I made myself put the pizza back so I could save some for my dad. The more I read, the more my fingers stiffened. Suddenly, I didn't feel like sending my letter anymore. With hands heavy as rocks, I took my letter and Shen's letter and walked over to my closet. I stuffed them both away in the back, together with my C- story and the rejection letter from the essay contest. Was it true? Was Shen rich now? The wild thought bounced around in my head as I tossed and turned. My lips formed the word, rich, rich. It was like a passcode to a different galaxy. And now Shen was part of the galaxy and I wasn't. Could it be that while our life had gotten so hard, his life had gotten so much easier? The thought was so painful to bear, I couldn't stand it. I rushed to lick my wounds. Shen may have his own room now, but I was pretty sure he still didn't have a bathroom with a shower. He still had to go to the neighborhood bathhouse. And his dad may have gotten a good job, but they had still never flown in an airplane and never stayed in a hotel before. With every never, I felt my panic subside. Later, when I could finally breathe again, guilt cut into me like a harsh fluorescent front office light. Like the harsh fluorescent front office lights. How could I feel this way about my own cousin? He was family. If he was doing well, I should be happy for him. I should be proud of him. Because after all, if his family was rich now, didn't that mean... I sat up in my bed. Mom! Chapter 62. My parents thought it was a joke. "You want your aunt to buy the Cala Vista?" They burst out laughing. "Why not?" I asked. I showed them Shen's letter, the part about how everyone in the city was starting to buy up property. They're not going to buy a motel, my dad said. Fine. They don't have to buy it, but they could lend us the money. We can buy it, and we could run it with Lupe and her family, I said. They don't have that kind of money, my dad said, and if they do, they wouldn't be in China. Well, it doesn't hurt to ask, I said. No way, my mom screwed up her face. I'm not going to ask my sister for money. Sometimes, when my parents got like this, I really wanted to spray them with all-purpose cleaner. Don't you guys want to get off the roller coaster, I asked. Mr. Yao wants to sell. I heard him on the phone. He's desperate. Auntie has money now. We could buy the motel. Don't you see what a huge opportunity this is? No, my mom didn't see. I see your heads in the clouds is what I see, my mom said flatly. Hank found me later that afternoon sitting on the back stairs. Why so blue? He asked, taking a seat. I shrugged. You still thinking about your lucky pennies? I shook my head. I wasn't thinking about those lucky pennies. I was thinking about this humongous penny staring us in the face. It was called family, and my parents refused to pick it up. When I told Hank, he got up and patted my head and said, Don't worry, leave it to me. He walked up to where my parents' maid cart was, and I followed him. My parents were in room 13 cleaning. Hank walked in and sat down on the bed. You know, it's a funny thing, pride, Hank said to my parents. It stopped me so many times in life. Hank glanced at me and added, and I'm not just talking about my reference letter. My mom put her broom down and wiped the sweat off her forehead. She sat down on the bed next to Hank. Hank took a deep breath and gazed outside in the general direction of the pool. I'm talking about when I was young, he sighed. When I was sick, I wanted to be a swimmer. I just loved watching swimming on TV. There wasn't a pool in my neighborhood, so I would walk 5 miles to the Y over in the next town to go swimming. And I got pretty good. In high school, I tried out for the swim team, and you know what? I made it too. I made it onto the team. I smiled. So then what happened? I asked. Hank grimaced. He told us about the other kids on the team and how they kept making fun of him. They kept saying stuff like, the basketball court's that way, and why are you putting on sunscreen? You don't need sunscreen. Stuff like that. He shook his head. I reached over and put my hand over his. I thought I would show them in the water, show them how fast I was. That'll shut them off. But the day of the big meet came, and guess what? What? I asked. I was dead last. I wasn't even close. So you know what I did? What? I quit. I just walked on out and never came back, he said. Good for you, my mom said. You're better off without them. See, that's what I used to think. But now you know what I think? I think if I were Mia, she wouldn't have quit. She wouldn't have let those punks take away her dream. She would have worked hard and gotten better. So what if you lose the first race? You get back in there and you keep swimming. And you know something? She would have been right. I thought back to all the times Hank walked by the pool, how he always stopped and stared at it, his mind a million miles away. Hank turned back to my parents. The point I'm trying to make is, you can't let a useless thing like pride get in the way of your dreams, Hank said. That's what I realized this year, Hank pointed at me. Now you've got a very special little girl here, and you owe it to her to swallow your pride, he said. I've been around long enough to know there aren't many chances in life for our lot to change our luck. And this is it. You're staring at it. Yao's dying to sell the motel. But it's not that simple. I've been lying to my sisters about how great our life is here, my mom confessed. So tell them the truth. No skin off your back, Hank said. My mom looked hesitantly at my dad. Hank's got a point, my dad said. Please, Mom, I added. My mother peered into my eyes. Hesitation melted into resolve. Slowly, she stretched out her hand. Give me the phone, my mom said. We all crowded around my mother as she picked up the phone in the room and dialed international for my aunt, a number she knew by heart, yet never used. My father looked at his watch. What time is it over there, he wondered. Probably 9, 10 in the morning? We waited and waited while it rung. Finally, on the 5th ring, my aunt picked up. Julie? My mother said in her rapid-fire Chinese. It's Ying. My mother's face lit up when she heard her sister's voice. I guess all the lies in the world couldn't pull two sisters apart. We're doing great, my mom said. Everything's fine, just terrific. Uh-oh. I could feel her Macy's voice coming on. Listen, The reason I called is that I have an opportunity for you, my mom said. She glanced hesitantly at my dad, who nodded. Go on. How would you like to invest in some American property? A pause. Yeah, I said American property, my mom repeated. Not just any property, a motel. See, the owner of our motel, Mr. Yao, is selling, and I just thought... I could hear my aunt's animated voice on the other line, but I couldn't make out what she was saying. No, you wouldn't have to run it. We could run it for you. It's a real cash cow, this motel, my mom said. A wonderful opportunity. My mom's face fell. I see. I could tell from the look on my mom's face my aunt wasn't going for it. My mom held her hand over the receiver and whispered to us, she says they're saving up to buy an apartment in Beijing for Shen. An apartment for Shen? Shen's only 10. No, of course, I understand. But listen, you don't have to put in a lot. You could ask Quinn and Lan and Bing. You don't have to. You could ask the whole neighborhood. Everybody could each put in a little. King, Lan, and Bing were my mother's other siblings. My mom frowned. Oh, they want to buy an apartment in Beijing too, huh? She said. My mom shifted her weight from one foot to the other. I could tell she was ready to give up, and I poked her. No. My mom looked over at us. Tell her, my dad mouthed. Okay, listen. She sighed into the phone. The truth is, we're really struggling here. Slowly, my mom put aside her Macy's voice and told my aunt the truth. So I'm asking, sis, will you help us? There was a long pause on the other end of the line, which my mom, Hank, and I all held our breaths. As my aunt delivered her verdict, my mom sank onto the bed. Chapter 63. My mother was inconsolable that night. She couldn't believe that her sister would rather buy a fancy penthouse in Beijing than help her own sibling. As she buried her head into her pillow, my father tried his best to comfort her. I can't believe she said no, my mom said to my dad. I couldn't either. Never in a million years did I think my aunt would say no. Not after my mom told her what we were going through. I guess a lot had changed since we left. Not just the neighborhood, but the people too. They were probably splitting the bill now. It's okay, my dad said. We tried. You heard what Hank said. It's no skin off our back. It is, my mom cried. It's the skin and the hair and everything. I bit my lip as I listened from my bed. Now we'll just be employees for the rest of our lives, working for one butt to another. Working for one butt after another. Excuse me. Not everyone can lead, Ying, my dad said. Some people are just destined to be followers. As my father started going on and on about our fate again, I threw my head back down onto the pillow. I didn't believe we were destined to be followers. I didn't believe we were just supposed to stay on this roller coaster forever. I thought about all the people I'd met this year and how we all deserved better. Lupe, Hank, and the other weeklies, and all the immigrants, so many wonderful people from so many different parts of the world. If only there was a way we could join together and break free. Wait a minute. What if we didn't need one rich relative? What if what we needed instead was a lot of poor people? My mom said it herself. Everybody could put in a little. Lupe came straight over the next day and squealed when I told her my plan. Of course, why didn't we think about this earlier? Mr. Yao desperately wants to sell the motel. We could probably get it for cheap. She grabbed my hand and we ran out to find Hank. It was a Saturday and Hank was outside his room watering his tomato plant. How much do you think Mr. Yao wants for the motel? We asked him. Hank stopped watering and drew in a sharp breath. At least $300,000, I'd say. Why? Did you guys find another rich relative? No, we're all out of those. But we knew a lot of people. Sure, they were all poor, but if everybody put in a little, and it wouldn't be a donation, it would be an investment. We'd own the motel together, I told Hank. I pulled out my notebook and showed him and Lupe my calculations. Their eyes boggled when they saw the math. This place makes $12,000 a month, Lupe asked. Holy, that's serious money, Hank exclaimed. $144,000 a year, serious to be exact. Hank slapped his legs. That's it. I am in, he declared. Hank emptied every pocket of every jacket. He dug his fingers into the backs of chairs and checked under his bed for money. He even checked his shoes. He managed to find $78.56, which wasn't a lot, but it was something. The other weeklies, as soon as they heard, wanted to contribute too. Fred put in $100. Billy put in $200. Mrs. T contributed $250. But it was Mrs. Q who put in the most. A whopping $3,000. Hank whistled. You got $3,000 lying around and you're living in this dump? He asked her. Why don't you get an apartment? This isn't a dump, Mrs. Q said. This is home, and besides, if I lived in an apartment, I would never meet all of these wonderful people. She gave my shoulder a squeeze. Lupe skipped on home to talk to her parents. She said they had some sort of emergency fund, but she wasn't sure how much was in there. As for me, I dug my essay from the essay contest. I made copies of the essay and passed it out to every single customer who came in. My plan was simple. Find 600 people to contribute $500 each. That would bring us to the grand total of $300,000. So far, we've got $3,682 from the weeklies. We still had to get $296,371. A few customers threw my story in the trash, but a surprising number didn't. They responded with genuine interest and curiosity. A few were moved by what I told them about our situation and the kind of year we'd been having and how we got through it by pulling together as a family. They opened their checkbooks and wrote checks for $700, $1,000, $4,000, $5,000, and even $8,000. One customer wanted to know my vision for the Cala Vista. His name was Mr. Cooper, and he was a venture capitalist from Los Angeles, passing through on his way down to San Diego. A venture capitalist, Mr. Cooper said, was someone who invested in small companies before they became big companies. Though he could afford to stay anywhere, Mr. Cooper still liked living frugally, and that's why he was at the Cala Vista. Where do you see the Cala Vista in 5 years? Mr. Cooper asked me. Right here, I said, a little confused by his question. He laughed. No, I mean, what kinds of things do you expect from the Cala Vista? I thought about it and said, I just want everyone to be happy. Every single customer. Mr. Cooper smiled. That's the kind of vision I like to hear. I'd be honored to invest, he said. Mr. Cooper took out his checkbook and wrote us a check for a jaw-dropping $50,000. As he handed us the enormous check, my mother's hand shook. She had never seen so many zeros all in one place. I'm expecting big things from this place, Mr. Cooper beamed. Big things. With Mr. Cooper's checks and the other customers' contributions, we still needed about $230,000. So the next day, I went around to all the shops on our street. To my wild surprise, both Mr. Abion from the convenience store and Mr. Bugatti from the dry cleaners wanted to invest. Are you sure? I asked them. Are you kidding? This is our chance to own a piece of land in America, they said. They were tired of sending all their money back to their relatives month after month. For once, they were going to spend it on themselves. They each gave me $1,000 cash. I ran all the way home, clutching the thick stack of hundreds in my hands. Lupe came over with even more thrilling news. Her parents talked it over, and they wanted to invest $10,000, the entirety of their emergency fund. But it's your emergency fund, I said. Are you sure about this? Lupe nodded. We've never been more sure of anything in our life, she said. As her dad added this chunk to a huge pile of money, Lupe and I grabbed each other's arms and jumped up and down, screaming, We're getting off the roller coaster! We're getting off the roller coaster! By the end of the week, we were $85,000 down, $215,000 to go. I took out the big ledger and started writing to old customers. I even wrote to Mr. Lewis, the guy who gave me a hard time about the key and wanted all those extra pillows. To my surprise, he wrote me back and sent me a check for $100, along with a gift certificate to Home Depot to get a better key machine. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, the nice couple who had given me an $8 tip, sent $75. They told their friend about it, and a guy who made a fortune selling mops on the home shopping channel on TV, and he called us up and wanted to invest. My dad then got on the phone and started calling up some other immigrants who had stayed at our motel. When the immigrants heard, they wanted to get in on the deal too. Aunt Ling, Uncle Lee, Uncle Fung, Uncle Zhu, each invested $100, $125, $150, and $200. Even Uncle Zhang, who had just gotten a new job parking cars at a parking garage, put in $88, which pleased my parents very much because of the number 8. Word got out that there was a killer investment opportunity, and soon immigrants all over up and down the state were coming to invest. If we can't have the American dreams ourselves, maybe we can have it together, the immigrants exclaimed. My parents were in awe. They could not get over the fact that so many people, total strangers, could believe in them like that. Could look at them and decide, hey, I don't know you, but I believe in you. I believe in your dream. And put crisp green bills into their tired, blistered hands. One stranger after another, flesh and bones, looked into their eyes and said yes, when time and time again they looked at themselves and said no. 2 weeks later, an even more amazing thing happened. Hank walked into the office with a stack of bills. He slid the cash across the front desk. A thick stack of 20s. You found more money? I asked. No, you found more money, he said. I furrowed my eyebrows at him. I didn't understand. I got your money back from the essay people, he announced. You what? I couldn't believe my ears. How? I took a page from your book, he said. I wrote them a letter. I reached over and touched the fresh green bills, my lucky penny money. I thought I'd never see it again. When I explained to them how young you are and how hard you worked for that money, they returned it just like that. Hank snapped his fingers. Oh, Hank, thank you, I said. He waved away my thanks like it was nothing, even though what he did meant the world to me. So, what are you going to do with it? Hank asked. I'll tell you what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to buy a motel with it. That's my girl, Hank beamed. I wrote the Vermont people a thank you for returning the money. That's when I had an idea. Dear Vermont essay organizers, thank you so much for returning my entry fee. Can you do me a huge favor? Can you please kindly help me send the following letter out to all the other people who entered the essay contest but did not win? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you, Mia Tang. Letter attached. Dear Sir or Madam, my name is Mia Tang and I am 10 years old, and like you, I also entered the Vermont Motel Giveaway Essay Contest. For the past year, I've been helping my parents manage a motel in Anaheim, California. We have made it our home, from the towels we carefully fold each and every day to the customers we call family. But you see, the motel is not ours. It belongs to a man named Mr. Yao, who is unkind and unjust and stubborn as a rock. My parents think that working for Mr. Yao is the only way, but I don't think so. At night, I dreamed of a better way. I dreamed of owning a motel one day, and that was all ours. So I entered the Vermont Motel Giveaway Essay Contest. Sadly, though, I did not win. I always knew losing was a possibility. What are the chances of actually winning a motel? But still, it hurt watching my hopes and dreams disappear. You probably know the feeling. Well, maybe all of our hopes and dreams don't have to disappear. I'm writing you because something has happened here at the Cala Vista Motel. Mr. Yao is selling. He's selling it for cheap because he's desperate. We're all chipping in to see if we can buy it from him. We're looking for investors. If you'd like to invest, please let me know. It wouldn't be a donation. You would be one of the owners, and in the future, whenever a customer comes to stay at the Cala Vista, part of that money would go to you. You might be asking yourself, why should I invest in a motel from a 10-year-old? For 3 reasons. 1, I know what I'm doing. I know every corner of this motel like the back of my hand because I've lived here and worked here for almost a year now. 2, I love what I'm doing. I'm very proud of my work. Every day I check people in at the front desk. The customers like me see enclosed feedback cards because I always go the extra mile for them. Number 3, I won't let you down. I will work hard every day for my dreams and yours. So what do you say? If we can't win a motel together, let's buy one. No investment is too small, even if all you have are some extra pennies and nickels lying around. We'll take them. You'd be amazed at how much some of them are worth. I look forward to hearing from you. Yours truly, Mia Tang, manager. A few weeks later, the checks started rolling in. The Vermont essay people sent my letter out, and to my absolute amazement, people from all over the country sent in checks for $50, $100, $2,000, and even $10,000. By the end of that incredible month, and with everyone else's investments, we had reached $300,000. We cashed the checks at the bank and kept all the cash in a giant trash bag, which my parents held in their arms at all times, and slept with it at night in case any robbers came. And that's where we're going to stop today. So, tomorrow, we'll see what happens with that money and if they will actually buy the Cala Vista. So again, just to recap, make sure that you're working on that packet. Make sure that you are getting the, there's that last vocab word that you can do, which is investment, is that last vocab word. So they're making an investment, meaning I'm not just giving you the money. If I'm investing in something, if I will get some money back when you make more money. So you do that vocab word, and then you can actually take your vocab quiz. After you do that, you have your other characterization trait papers, and you have your author's purpose paper, so you can do those as well. Make sure that you are writing every day, that you're reading every day. Moby Max language, Moby Max informational skills, Moby Max literature skills, math, IXL. I think Mr. Kilborn posted a couple videos, so check all that stuff out. I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the last video I post for a week because it will be spring break. But I will be posting some videos the week after spring break. I love you guys. I miss you guys and hope you're having a good week.